All right. Next resolution, Paul, is the sale of town-owned
Right.
property. Do you want to take us through that a little bit?
I'll be happy to take you through it. As the board may be aware, each year we undertake an in rem process to commence foreclosure proceedings on individuals or property owners who've not paid taxes for 4 years. It's a process I go through with Mr. Mecca every year. And as you have in front of you from Mr. Burns, this document here, which will tell you where we are on the class of 15, which is who's paid and who hasn't paid. So what you have before you is from the class of 13. We took in rem 2 properties, 76 Inwood and 70 Inwood Avenue in Portchester.
The third page of the report, and it's under Schedule A. It's marked at the bottom as page 1, because this is the in rem receivables from 2013.
Right. So we took these properties in rem, and we found that the properties had probably over $20 or $30 million in federal and state liens on these properties. It was quite extraordinary, actually. And so we immediately contacted the IRS to discuss the possibility of a sale, and they gave us what's called as a waiver of sale, which means, which I emailed you with the attachment, which essentially means that the IRS gave us permission to sell the properties for the taxes that are due, but were we to obtain any additional monies, we'd have to turn them over to the IRS. We are allowed, however, to charge back some what we call reasonable costs for the closing. So with that, we also reached out to New York State and, of course, received absolutely no response whatsoever. So the prior board started the process. We had one potential buyer. They didn't want to, there was no public process. So they listed the properties with a real estate brokerage firm that we'd used in the past and had some success with. They were listed with the broker for, I think, about 9 months. Was that right, Bishop? Or 6 to 9 months? Okay. Was it 4 months? Okay. There were no offers. Subsequent then, as the listing expired, we did receive an offer from this company called Bell Point Capital Management, and they offered to buy the property and pay whatever the outstanding taxes are at the time of the closing, and they accepted our waiver from the IRS. Now, after they got the contract, they did sign the contract. They gave me a check for the down payment. They reached out to New York State, and they found out that there were actually more liens than we had originally found in the original title report. It was more of a close to $1.6 million with the state of New York, forgetting the federal liens. So what they've asked us to do is to permit them to go to New York State and work out a deal, which the state seemed to be willing to do. And they asked us to give them until March 18th, 2016 to do that. If they could not work out an arrangement with New York State, they would then have the right to withdraw from the transaction and have their down payment refunded. This was presented to the prior board. The prior supervisor did not agree. He didn't want to do it, and at least one other board member had some reservations. So the prior board never actually took up this rider. I sent it to you this month in the hopes that this board would then agree to permit this rider to be executed by the supervisor and give the buyer another 2 months to try and work out something with New York State. The reason I think it's a good idea is because we have no other options here. We have no other potential buyers. We can't make any money on this. All we can do is get the taxes and hopefully get it back on the tax rolls. The property is a liability for us. We've had some issues with the Portchester Building Department. The police have been by at least on one occasion. We think there might be a squatter there, and the place is a mess, quite frankly. It's really a dump. So the sooner we get it off our hands.
And we are responsible as the
Currently
owners
responsible because we own the
for
property.
property maintenance
Yeah.
and should any accidents occur thereon.
Correct. It is town property. So it's also tax exempt right now as it's town property. So we're not collecting any revenue on it. So with that, there is a resolution before you that would authorize the supervisor to execute the contract as the contract was not executed by the prior supervisor, as well as the proposed rider. And also in this agreement, if you had a chance to read it, there is also an indemnification agreement because they've undertaken at least one Phase 1 environmental review, We anticipate they'll be doing a Phase 2 as well. Any
Questions from the board?
No.
So as you said, Paul, there's really no other option here. In other words, there's no other buyer. And
Correct.
what are
There's
we
no-
waiting for March for?
Correct. I mean, I'm not saying you couldn't list it again with a broker. I mean, there's other things you could probably do. I mean, given the experience, it's been almost 2 years, we've had very little success in marketing the properties
And the
because
2
they're
months
so
gives them time
undesirable.
to get their ducks in a row.
It gives them a chance to work something out with the state of New York.
Okay.
That's really all it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess the sale or the plan and agreement they come up with New York State will not impact our agreement.
That's correct. It doesn't change anything as far as we're concerned.
Right.
And it'll add the properties back onto the tax roll.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, and it'll also
And we'll get some money.
eliminate,
Yeah.
we'll get money, and we'll eliminate the liability of maintaining the property. And for anybody who thinks we can get a better deal, the fact is, we can only get the amount of taxes and charges, et cetera. We can't go out and sell it for $2 million because the federal government is going to take the rest of it. And the state. Whatever the feds don't take, the state's going to take.
Correct. And the amount due now is approximately, looks like 180, 190,000 that they owe us for taxes. Now, remember, taxes we've already guaranteed and paid to the villages and the school districts. So the town would recoup almost $200,000 that's due to the
Right.
town, which is a lot of money.
All right. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Roll?
Jackson,
Aye.
Nardi,
Aye.
Baxter,
Yes.
Villanova,
Yes.
Zuckerman.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, David. Resolution on the Citizens Task Force. This is a resolution that grows out of some, I'm not going to say dissatisfaction. The assessment process, the questions have been raised, and this is a response to that, which is to appoint a task force to work with the assessor, not against the assessor, to work with the assessor to help determine best practices and to make sure that our assessment process is as open and as transparent, fair, and equitable as possible. Madam Clerk, would you read the resolution?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Whereas the town board deems it desirable and helpful to undertake a review and study of all governmental functions of the town of Rye, and whereas since the assessment function deals with real property valuation and assessment procedure, this function is highly technical, and whereas due to the technical nature of the assessment function, the town board has determined that a volunteer citizen task force comprised of individuals with specialized experience and education needed to adequately review and study the assessment function of the town would best serve in this capacity. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Rye does and hereby appoint such task force to be called the Task Force on Assessment Practices and Procedures. And be it further resolved that the task force shall consist of the following individuals: Joan Feinstein, 6 Robbins Roost, Rybrook, New York; Richard Cuddy, 58 Woodland Drive, Portchester, New York; Randy Rabinowitz, 540 Lawn Terrace, Mamaroneck, New York; Marcia Rogel, 65 Talcott Road, Rybrook, New York; and Daniel DiTartaglia, 29 Brookridge Court, Rybrook, New York. Be it further resolved that the aforementioned Daniel DiTartaglia shall be appointed chair of the task force, and be it further resolved that the task force is authorized to immediately commence a complete review of the assessment office of the town of Rye and prepare a report with findings and recommendations to the town board as soon as practicable.
Motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none,
Well,
please. Yes, Billy?
yeah, I want to say that I think that this is an additional step in the right direction. I think this is a great idea from the supervisor, and that this will help provide another opportunity for transparency, and also give the communities of Rybrook, Portchester, and Mamaroneck yet another voice when it comes to the assessment department.
Let me just comment, all the individuals here they're from different parts of our town and have real estate experience and are familiar with the basic assessment practices and with the properties within the town of Rye. Just one small change, Hope, practices and procedures should be capitalized as part of the title.
I also wanted to add that I know particularly for the Rhinebeck section, which last year, I believe, was the first year that they were assessed from the town.
No, they've been
Or,
always,
but the first year they did it on behalf of the village. The
No,
village had-
last year was the first year that the village of Mamaroneck chose to just let the town of Rye use our assessed
no,
values.
Yeah.
the
And I know-
no, for village.
For village
Yes, the first
taxes.
year for Village of Mamaroneck tax purposes in the Rhinebeck section.
Yes, and I know from that particular, there was some confusion there coming from that particular portion of the community, and I think this will be great to help address some of those concerns.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Jackson?
Yes.
Nardi?
Aye.
Baxter?
Yes.
Villanova?
Yes.
And Zuckerman.
Yes. Otter Creek Bridge painting. Is our highway superintendent here?
Good evening. Have you all seen the bids
Yes,
that came in?
yes.
I spoke with Tom Ottoman, and he and his staff are evaluating each of the bids to see if they are legitimate and checking any references that they may have to make sure that we're dealing with reputable companies. And by our next February meeting, they're going to present a recommendation to the board to offer a contract to one of these bidders to do the maintenance work this season.
Mr. Supervisor, I just, I have to continue to repeat myself, because it appears that we haven't made any traction on this whatsoever. John's aware of that, and professional staff's aware of that as well. So I will say this: if we cannot identify a reputable bidder, someone that's going to be able to take care of this project, I respectfully request that we go to a different engineering company and make sure that we're approaching this the right way, because this has been stalled for the better part of 2 years. We come out of every winter season working and hoping that this is going to happen, and my frustration level last year, as you can find in the minutes, was at an all-time high, that we can't get this one simple project done. So just want to share that with the board.
Thank you, Bill. I feel exactly the same way. I think the last bid came in at around $250,000. Am I correct, Tom?
Yeah.
John?
It was outrageous.
Right.
But we seem to get 6 reasonable bids at this
Well,
point.
Whether they're reasonable
Yeah.
depends on whether or not the companies are reputable.
Right.
Just for the public edification, all of this is on the website. The low bid was $29,900. The high bid was $150,000. So that's a very wide separation. Excuse me. The second low bid was 70. So that's $40,000 higher than the lowest bid. And the other ones, from number 2 to number 4 goes from 70 to 97,000. So that's fairly close. There is a difference, but it's fairly close. The high bid of 150 is substantially above. And the question is, are any of these reputable bidders? What is their record? And that, Mr. Onman will have to give us a report and a recommendation before the next meeting.
Yes, he's going to prepare a report, and he will make a presentation at the next meeting. So you'll have all the information prior to, and you will have a presentation at the meeting.
Right. Now, when can this work start, since we're in the middle of the winter? Are we looking to start this in February, or are we looking to start this in April?
I think you have to start this in the spring season, like in March or April, because we have to go by the water and the tides, because it's a project that's done over the water, and you have to work with the seasons. So we'll be
Well-
done probably in April.
All right. So there's no rush to enter into an agreement with the bidder at the February meeting. We can take that report and then issue the bid, issue the contract, or the, award the contract for the March meeting. Is that
That's right.
correct?
That's correct. I just want to make sure the board has plenty of time to look at all the recommendations from Ottoman Kirby.
All right. Very good. Any questions from the board? Do you have any other bridge report?
I have a question. Do you know how long it's going to take?
According to Ottoman Kirby, the project should take no more than a month at the longest period of time, depending on the tides and the weather, because it's affected by the weather and the tides.
Only because I know there's a club at the other end, and that
Yeah.
their season is the summer, so I'm
Yeah,
sure
it'll be
that-
finished before they get into
Okay.
full swing.
One of the problems, it's not a passable bridge. In other words, no boats can run underneath. So even if it was, you can only work at it at low tide. That's one of the problems at that bridge.
Thus spake our former highway superintendent, Mr. Nardi. All right. Thank you, Mr. Crescenzo.
Okay.
Do you have any other report on the other bridges?
Everything else is status quo. The only bridge that may come into question would be the Hillside Avenue Bridge, that we have to have discussions with the Village of Amerenik and the Town of Amerenik, because it's a tri-municipal bridge, but they're waiting for some other information to come forward before we even sit down and discuss any work on that bridge.
All right.
I'm sorry, I just have a couple of quick
Yeah.
questions about the Hillside Avenue Bridge, because I understand that there was some damage due as a result of plows.
There
Is
was
that-
some damage due to some snow and leaf removal by their payloaders. So that portion of the bridge, the monies, any monies that the village got from
Insurance?
anybody in insurance for that would have to be put forward before any, disbursement of any other municipal funds would be set apart.
And we've been pretty lucky this winter as far as snow removal.
Yeah.
But is there any future impact?
Well, right now, the bridge hasn't been
Plowed.
plowed, but it hasn't been marked by the state for any problem, so it's in good, decent shape, it's operable shape. The sidewalks where the damage was done have been blocked off,
But
so they're
the-
not in use.
But the winter conditions aren't going to worsen the damage?
No, according to what we know, that's not gonna happen.
Okay.
When that payloader went through the sidewalk, went right through the sidewalk, and it didn't do any structural damage to the bridge itself.
Yeah.
But it's bridges from, was it from like 1930, 1940, the
I think
bridge?
it's 1939,
Yeah,
yeah.
so its time is up.
Yeah, no, I just know that it was a rough winter last year.
Yeah.
And I just,
The actual roadway structure is in good shape, there's no problem with it, it's the sidewalk where it went through.
so there's no rush, it can be done.
Yeah, that's why they've been put it off until we
Yeah.
finished Jefferson Avenue. Now that that's done, we're gonna start looking into that.
It's been, what, 2 years since that bridge, 2.5 years?
Yeah,
All right. Thank you, Mr. Di Crescenzo.
okay.
In keeping with the bridge and bringing the board up to speed, I guess I'd like to request that the town attorney prepare a memo. We've had executive sessions discussing this bridge. If you could prepare a memo filling in the board members on this status.
On which
Which one?
part of the bridge?
On the Hillside Avenue Bridge and
Hillside.
remember we met with the attorneys?
No, that's the Jefferson Avenue Bridge.
Wrong
Oh, I'm
bridge.
sorry. I apologize.
You're making me
If you
nervous,
could-
but yeah,
I-
I actually am going to
Sorry.
send an email.
If you
but
could
the
send an
village
email
is,
filling the board
looking-
in on the Jefferson Avenue Bridge, I
I
apologize.
will do that for the next meeting, and you'll need to make a decision. The village is looking for any, well, actually, the village is now taking a different position.
Correct.
Instead of us paying for the litigation, we agree not to take the benefits if they win the litigation. That was their latest,
Right.
after we asked them for a proposal.
What
So
I
I
would
will do
suggest
that, yeah.
maybe is prepare the memo.
Yeah, I'll do
And then maybe we need to have an executive session to discuss that
I
litigation.
would like to do that since I was not at the executive session.
weren't in office yet.
I know
that's
that,
why.
so
Yeah.
that's why I'd like to be brought up to date on this.
I'll get to that. It's
Okay,
on my list of things to do.
okay. The growing list of things to do. All right, is the applicant here from the special event?
No.
Were they there?
Yeah, there
thought
were
he was
two
in the
people
wrong
back
place.
there.
You almost lost out. Glad to see. Please introduce yourself. Tell us what this is all about, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Fausto Ramon. I'm here because I tried to rent the Crawford Park because we have been done for 13 years about religion celebration for Virgin of Cisne. So we try to. The reason we try to do that because it's try to keep our families together, share time with the children's parents and every friends. So sometimes it's very difficult for us to keep together. So that's the reason we try to do that celebration, so we can keep everybody together. So
This event has taken place in the park previously?
yes,
It's basically a yearly event? Annual event. Yeah, okay. And the Village of Rybrook Police Department is aware of this event? I asked Debbie to check into coordination between the town and the Village of Rybrook, because I guess the village is going to be policing. Is there security at all that the applicant is providing for?
yeah, they have.
I know that this is not a boisterous party. This is more of a religious nature, but
Yeah, when I tell you we have been doing this 13 years, so we never have a problem
okay.
with the police. They coming only reason because the volume is too high, but besides that, we don't have any problem.
And this is going to happen in August?
August.
Yeah, I think it's August 14th, I saw. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Council members have any questions?
The parking,
I don't have a copy of it.
we're going to have, Bishop, Debbie, we're going to have appropriate staff there for parking. All fees will be paid. Okay.
We don't have anybody in there now, but we certainly can add a parking person for this.
Okay, because you're saying 80 cars, so this one, try to communicate with the people that are coming to carpool, minimizes the impact, okay? Please know that at any moment that there is an unsafe condition at Crawford Park because of cars parked on the roadway, we're going to close the party down because we need to make sure that the roadway is open sufficiently for police cars, ambulances, and fire trucks. Okay? So safety is of paramount importance. Okay, so make sure that you work closely with the staff. Okay?
All right.
Thank you.
All right. I think we need to, unless there's an objection, we should have a formal motion and second to approve the use of the park on August the 14th for this group.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Point of information, is that something we typically do for events at Crawford Park? Or
No,
is there a threshold number that, once it hits that number, then it becomes a resolution?
it's events this size that need to make application to
And
us.
what's the number?
The number is 150.
Okay, that's good to know.
And in the,
Oh, wait, you know what? There's another question that we usually ask. Are there any other events that day at Crawford Park?
As of right now, no.
Okay, so keeping in mind that in the future now, if someone asks for an event at Crawford Park, let's be sure to communicate to them that there's going to be a large event that's there already. So we got to keep that in mind going forward.
Absolutely.
With multiple events.
We have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. Please call the roll.
Jackson.
Aye.
Nardi.
Aye.
Baxter.
Yes.
Villanova.
Yes.
Zuckerman.
Yes, thank you. And Debbie, let's make sure that the Village of Rybrook is communicated with, and they're totally aware of this, and work with the town and the group to make the event a very successful one.
Okay, thank you. Good
Okay.
night.
Reports? Does the assessor have a report this evening?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome, new council members and new administration. I don't have an official assessor report this evening, but a couple of brief announcements. The enhanced star exemption renewals have gone out for the seniors, and the 2014 income taxes are required with that. The senior citizen exemption renewal will be going out on Monday, and 2015 income taxes and income tax documents are required with that. And basically, I look forward to working with your Citizens Task Force on assessment.
Thank you. And one of our members here, I don't know if you know Joan Feinstein, she's sitting right here.
Hi, Joe.
You can talk to each other right after the meeting.
Okay.
And I'm sure we will be successful. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have a report on Crawford Park? If not,
Bishop
Bishop, do we have an update on the pavilion? Oh, okay.
stepped
all
out.
right, we'll skip that one. We'll go to the next one. Finance report?
Let me take you back to the tax receivable summary report, which is a monthly report that addresses the outstanding receivables for the town in total. And it also addresses on the following pages, the in-rem receivables detail that you approved 2 properties today for sale. But that was from the class of 13 as you refer to. Once receivable goes to a lien, once it's in lien for 2 years, it becomes in-rem eligible. And that's when the town attorney works with the receiver and myself to try to get those taxes paid or transfer the property over to the town of Rye. So,
Do you or Mr. Noto, do we have any guesstimate as to whether or not we're going to be taking any properties this year?
Yes, well, here's what, if you look on page 3 of Dave's report,
the final
the final page, it says, as of December 31st, 15. So the top, there's 13 on the top and 15 on the bottom. So the 15 on the bottom are of the original 38, whatever we had.
28.
28, sorry, thank you. That's why I'm the attorney and you're the controller. The 15 have paid, and you can see that on the right-hand column. The date for payment was December 15th, 2015, and the 13 on the top are, of course, the stragglers who've not met the deadline. So of the 13 at the top, I believe at least 4 will pay within the next few weeks. I've talked to just about everybody, but some of them have indicated they'll be making payments soon. As you can see, some have made partial payments. If they make a partial payment, that usually means they're going to pay. Others I've not heard from. So just looking at this list, I'm thinking there could be 3 or 4 that we will end up actually taking in rem. Now, the process as it goes forward is as follows. I will, in about a week, make a motion for summary judgment in Supreme Court, which takes about 6 to 7 or 8 weeks, depending on what judge it's assigned to, which the judge then orders that the town will own the property and that it directs us to prepare a deed from the receiver of taxes to the town supervisor. that's the next step, and that's the final step. So they're often the case, once I make the motion, because the people get a big package and it's very official looking and scary, they might pay. And, you know, the way I've worked with people, which we pretty much let them pay pretty much up to filing of the deed, because as we tell everybody, we don't want to be in the real estate business, we'd rather get the taxes. So that, you know, candidly, this is a large class of non-payment by this time. Historically, we get 95 to 99%. Like, in fact, last year, we had 100%, you know, payment
100%
in the
compliance.
class of 14. So I can't tell you why this is a little different. I've heard a lot of different stories from people as to why they're not paying their taxes. And our position is, remains the same.
Right.
You have to pay.
Can you just tell me about one of these properties, 16 South Main Street, which owes over $1 million?
No, they owe 143.7. That's the assessed value is the
Oh,
million.
that's the AV, okay, I'm sorry.
That's a.
Alan Collins.
Excited.
Yeah, that's an owner who owns quite a bit of property, and he's a repeat offender. I believe he was on our original class of
One
2009.
column off.
Yeah.
Well, 143,000 is still a lot of money.
Yes, it is quite a bit of money. And he is one who had indicated payment by January 15th in my notes, and that passed without a payment, I assume, right, Nick? Yeah, okay, so, you know, you learn to hear that a lot in this business, you know, checks in the mail. Okay, I hear it all the time, so.
So we use the assessed value as a benchmark for the back taxes, so that if we do decide we take possession and sell the property, then the back taxes gets paid, and any additional money is gain on sale of property.
All right, and we get that,
Yes,
we get that.
We get that.
yes.
All right, let's, anything else on finance?
I just want to caution the board that usually when we discuss these properties in public, we try to, you know, stick to an address. You know, this isn't personal. We try not to mention any personal names, just given the sensitivity of the discussion.
I'm aware of it, that's why I use the property address. Jumping back now, Crawford Park, Bishop, do you have anything? Debbie, do you have anything to report on Crawford?
Anything on the pavilion project?
The only outstanding item that I'm aware of is the pavilion renovation project. We have reached out to the architect. He is indicating he's aware of the time constraint. Remember, we had artificially placed an April 1 completion time on that because April 1, very soon after, the Rybrook and Portchester soccer groups start to come in earnest. That's 200, 300, 400 kids.
Just for the record, I have also called Mr. Gianfrancesco. We'll play telephone tag, and hopefully we will connect. Thank you. Superintendent of Highways has already given his report. Tax receiver Nick. Nick has submitted his written report. Do you have anything to add, Nick?
Honorable Supervisor Zuckerman, members of the Town Council, welcome, by the way, to your new positions, and good luck to all of you. My name is Nicholas Mecca. I live 45 Alto Avenue. I have the distinction of being the receiver of taxes for the town of Rye. I'm here tonight to remind all taxpayers who are responsible for their own property taxes that it is time for the school taxes, and that's all districts. Blind Brook School District, Portchester School District, and Rye Neck School District. And I must remind you that come February 1st, if you're delinquent, that is a 10% penalty. So please, everyone, if you are responsible, get the check to us or call. Make sure that it's paid. If you think it is and you're not positive, call the office. We're only too happy to check and make sure. Okay? Very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mecca. Paul, I assume that you've given your report, or you
Yeah,
have something
nothing-
else?
Nothing to add, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Town clerk has submitted her report in writing as well. Do you have anything to add, Madam Clerk?
I'd just like to welcome you and Lindsay and Anthony to the board. I look forward to working with you as well.
Thank you, thank you. Comments from the council? Let's start from the left, if anybody, you don't have to speak, but if you'd like to. Lindsay? You don't have to.
No,
It's okay, anything you want to say.
Well, I guess, I did want to mention someone who, we recently lost, who was very important to me and served as a mentor in a lot of ways, Sam, and, words can't express how much I miss him and wish he was here to see my first meeting. I think that Rye Town and Portchester lost someone who was truly a remarkable individual and was extremely passionate about this community, and it's going to be hard to replace it. He's irreplaceable, I would argue.
Thank you, well said. Tommy?
Yeah, same thing. Very sad about losing Sam. He was a personal friend, helped my wife and myself out on a few things. It's going to be sorely missed. We'd also like to welcome Lindsay, Anthony, and Gary to the board, and look forward to working with you guys. That's it.
Thank you. Tony?
Well, at the risk of drawing Sam's ire, because I know he would be upset with us making such a fuss, but Sam and I have been friends for more than 20 years, and he will be sorely missed. He was a good friend. He was a good man. His passion was always in the right place. Sometimes not delivered in perhaps the best manner, but you could never doubt that he really had the best interests of the town and specifically the village of Portchester at heart. So I welcome everybody else. I look forward to working with everybody, and we're going to have a good year.
Yes, first I want to welcome Lindsay, Tony, and Gary to the board. Since the election, pretty much immediately after the election, we began talking and to make sure there was a seamless transition. And Gary started to become a leader of the town at that time, and he's doing a great job. There's no question that this board will remain unified and keeping the interest of the residents of Rye Town and the property owners in their thoughts and the deliberations every time we make a decision. The town of Rye has also been working with the Westchester County regarding the stormwater management, stormwater reconnaissance program. And I've been giving some brief reports time and time again. 2 weeks ago, we had a great meeting. And Gary was able to attend that meeting with us, and the scope of work is pretty much growing. We've now included the Village of Rybrook in those discussions, and it appears that we're making some good headway. And by February 1st, we should be able to enter into an IMA with the county, the town of Rye, the Village of Rybrook, and the Portchester School District to address the flooding that happens primarily in the Avon Circle area. I guess that's what they don't call it Avon Circle anymore, but Avon Circle area and the fields behind the Portchester Middle School. So I'm very happy and that we got that progress, and very hopeful that we'll be able to address those severe conditions that happen every time it rains. I also want to mention Sam. As everyone knows, I was very close with him, and it was a relationship that was very deep. And I just want to quote Samantha, his daughter, during the eulogy. And for those of you that know him, you may know him two different ways. But the way that Samantha mentioned him was that he was sweet as pie and tough as nails. And Sam was a good guy and always really had the best interest of everybody at heart. And he will be missed. And I believe that the town of Rye will probably honor him in some fashion this year. And I'm pretty confident that Supervisor Zuckerman has something special in mind. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple of things. First, thank you all for welcoming me and Lindsay and Tony to the board. Tommy and Billy have been here much longer, and I count on their experience to help us as we learn the ins and outs of helping move the town of Rye forward. I think that we have an absolutely wonderful staff, headed by our elected officials, Hope, our clerk, Nick, our collector, receiver. And I think we have a wonderful staff of people working in the town. I know that Denise works really, really hard at her job, and the appointment of the task force is no reflection on her at all, but will help to, I think that the assessment process is probably the most important process that the town does, along with the collection of taxes. It's really a complicated issue, and I think that our task force will help her and help all the residents in the town and make the process very, very clear and transparent and equitable. I've gotten to know, in my brief time here, the members of the staff, of the assessor, of the clerk, et cetera, and they are all hardworking, wonderful people. Davy Burns, our our controller, does a wonderful job, and I know that he's attempting to pick up the slack that has been left in Sam's absence. Paul, I've gotten to know him even better. I've known Paul for a long time, since he was a county legislator, I guess. We've worked together in the past, but now ever more closely. And as a fellow attorney, I think we have a symbiotic relationship, and we'll continue to work together. I want to welcome my new Chief of Staff and Confidential Secretary, Debbie Reisner. I think that Debbie will do a super job for all of us, and will be my confidant. I've worked with Debbie for about 6 years at the League of Women Voters, and we know how each of us works, and I think that's going to make it a lot easier. I also want to thank Bishop. I thanked him during the earlier Rye Town Park meeting, and I'm thanking him again because he has made this transition seamless. He's helped Debbie tremendously. He's helped me. Basically, neither of us knew anything, and Bishop has made the transition go as smooth as possible. Sam Terenzi, I'm sitting up here with a group of people, and with Hope down there, and Paul, and Davy, who have known him much longer than I did, much longer. But in the brief time that I've gotten to know him, I discovered something that a lot of the people in the community don't know. I mean, everybody knows, his nickname was Sammy the Bull, and he's gruff, and he cursed, and he screamed, and he bullied. We all know that. But Sam, inside, was soft, and I saw that at his daughter's wedding. I mean, anybody who knew Sam Terenzi from the newspaper articles or his trustee meetings in Portchester would not have known the same person. But that's the person that was described here by Lindsay, by Tommy, by Billy, by Tony. He was a different kind of person. And as his daughter said at the funeral, he was one of a kind, and he was loyal, and once you were his friend, and sometimes he didn't show his friendship by hugging and kissing you, he showed it by yelling at you. But he was a special kind of person, and probably difficult to get to know, and certainly people who just saw the surface did not appreciate what he truly was. And he will be missed, not only because he just knew all the figures in this town backwards and forwards, but because he knew everybody in the town. And as was said earlier, he had the interests of the town at heart and the interests of his beloved Portchester at heart. And I know some people in Rybrook maybe didn't appreciate him very much, but I grew to appreciate him as I got to know him. And with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I just wanted to add one quick, and I apologize on that note. I think we'll just go with the motion to adjourn, because I can't follow that one up. But I do
Okay.
want to thank Bishop also for his outstanding professionalism. It's been a pleasure to work with him.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.